This was linked to me by Hollow. He linked it to me in the Reaction Randy channel, which is on our Discord. By the way, there's a channel there called Reaction Randy. You can go there. You can post suggestions of videos for me to watch. And so we're going to be checking it out. I don't know what this video is about, but considering that we're talking about parsing, it seems like it's relevant. So we're going to very smoothly segue into the video. See how smooth that transition was? Let me just do this. And looks like I'm in front of Xenosys' face. Well, I wouldn't want that. So I'll do this. And I will put my face up here. There.
So here's my latest video. When I did this video, I kind of just like assumed people knew a lot more than they did. So that was my first mistake. My second mistake was I called ADPS actual DPS when it's actually called adjusted DPS, but for tanks, more or less, it's actual DPS. And this was supposed to be from a tank perspective. And I got a lot of questions asking about like Dancer and, you know, other shit like that. So I just decided that I just wanted to talk about it again. Okay, so basically this is the site. Now this site is very, very good. The main thing that I want to address is that this site can be used as a learning tool, okay? So one of the main things about this,
it can also be used by extremely toxic individuals to go find your very first raid logs ever from the very first raids you've ever done and then shove them in your face and telling everyone that you gray parsed and therefore your opinion doesn't matter. If that sounds strangely specific, it's because it is, you toxic motherfuckers.
Is RDPS, ADPS, and NDPS. It's important to know what the differences are, okay? What is RDPS? RDPS stands for Raid Contributing DPS, and is measured by how much damage you actually brought to the raid. Before we continue, this metric mostly applies to RDPS jobs. What is an RDPS job? Like Dancer, because they have a raid buff. Bard, they have a raid buff. Anything with a raid buff. This is just basic shit, okay? So that you have a basic understanding of how this shit works, okay? So this is the example they give. So RDPS equals DPS minus damage gained from others, but the damage given to others by your own external buffs. So for example, if you're a monk, your RDPS would subtract out damage you gained from external buffs like Trick and Battle Voice, but it would also add damage in you gave from others like Brotherhood. It's not too hard to understand. RDPS means, you know, you use Brotherhood, you get all that damage. Okay, NDPS, neutral DPS. It is measuring the damage you did with the damage you gained from external buffs removed. The formula is NDPS equals DPS minus damage gained from other external buffs. For example, if you're a monk, your NDPS would subtract out damage you gained from Trick and Battle, and it would not add the damage gained from Brotherhood. Okay, so ADPS stands for adjusted DPS, and is measuring how much damage you did with only single target padding removed. AoE padding is still allowed. The formula is ADPS equals DPS minus gain from a set of specific single target buffs. Okay, so if you're trying to play the game even remotely serious, it's good to know this kind of stuff, okay? The buffs removed by this metric include Devilment, Standard Finish, Astrologian cards, and Left Eye. So these are just like single target stuff. And for tanks, you're never gonna card a tank, or maybe in an opener.
Selfish Astros, why wouldn't you card a tank? My Paladin hits like a truck. Why is everyone laughing? Stop this. It's not funny. This is not funny. Fine.
When you get more melee cards, maybe that, okay? But you're never gonna do this on a tank. You're never gonna do that on a tank, okay? That's why my last video, it was aimed mostly at tanks. But the ADPS is adjusted DPS, and it removes this shit, okay? So why have multiple metrics? It's important to have different metrics because obviously some jobs, their ADPS is gonna be shit, right? Like Dancer's ADPS is garbage. A lot of their damage comes from the utility they provide, the buffs and shit like that, okay? So that's why it's important to have multiple metrics, okay? RDPS is great for showing how much damage you really contributed to the raid. For utility jobs like Dancer and Ninja, the metric depends on people making good use of your buffs. So some damage you contribute to the raid is out of your control. Okay, so what does this mean? That means if your party sucks, your DPS is probably going to suck. NDPS is great for showing how well you executed your rotation. This allows, for example, Dancer and Ninja to see how well they did even if placed with underperforming partners or groups. Okay, so like I said, you know, you go into a group and you're like, man, I'm kind of blowing it up, but then, you know, the fucking group doesn't really. And and your DPS is shit, then that's why. Okay, so ADPS removes single target padding, but still rewards you for playing to AoE buffs. This is the metric I was trying to talk about on tanks because it's important how much damage you put into raid buffs. This metric is very important to tanks. It also doesn't include your buff contribution, so this metric allows you to evaluate how well players are aligning their damage burst with external AoE buffs. This is good for knowing how well you're putting damage into buffs, which you should be putting damage into buffs. Obviously, this goes into all this shit here. Look at me, I'm bald, I have a beard, I'm dumb. Okay, I'm obviously not reading this shit. I can barely read this shit. You can read this shit. We're gonna move on. I just want to give people a basic understanding of kind of the differences in this shit and how to read it. You know what I mean? So going back to these different type of DPS metrics, okay? So RDPS, ADPS, NDPS, okay? I used the tanks last time, so we'll just use the DPS this time. But obviously, like, you know, Black Mage's RDPS, this is taking away playing into raid buffs and stuff, you know? So the ADPS, this removes the single target stuff. Samurai's fucking, Samurai's blowing it up. But, you know, you can see, like, this is why they can't really buff Black Mage, even though its RDPS is, like, kind of down here, okay? Because if you buff this, then it's gonna just absolutely fucking decimate Summoner and Red Mage, you know what I mean? So, like, right now, the balance is a little scuffed, okay? Machinist is fine, XDD, you know. It's in a weird spot, okay?
It's like the balance is definitely scuffed, and I know that a lot of people talk about machinists. If I was to say something, it would definitely be about Paladin. It is extremely frustrating to be a Paladin. Again, I'm very noobish when it comes to takes on balance, but I do want to bring something up. I took a little screenshot here that I would like to show you if I can find it. That would be very positive indeed, would it not? So, this right here is the damage from our P6S clear yesterday. This is the first time that we cleared P6S, so do not take these damages as in like, oh my god, these guys suck. Because like, we weren't even planning on clearing it on that attempt. We were still testing out multiple strategies, and we raid blind. We do not look up strats. We come up with strats, and that is the most entertaining way to raid as far as I'm concerned, right? Now, the reason I wanted to bring this to your attention is because this really shows the balancing problem, when it at least one of the balancing problems in regards to the Paladin. Why do I say this? So you look at all of these jobs in here. Can I actually like scroll down? Yeah. You look at all the jobs in here, right? And the way that this percentage is this percentage basically compares you to the rest of the other logged players for that job, for that particular encounter in the website. So what does that mean? It means that, for instance, if I'm 44, this is a percentage. If I'm 44%, it means that I'm in the top 44% paladins that are in the website, right? I'm in the top 44% of players. Wait, top 44%? Or I'm better than 44% of the paladins. It's I'm in the top 66%. Actually, I'm wrong. It means that you're better than the bottom 44% of paladins. You're in the top 66. Whatever. Basically, the higher this number goes, the better you are in relation to all of the other players that are in the website, right? And so why am I bringing this to your attention? So I'm playing a paladin, and I'm number 44. Now, our main tank is a gunbreaker. Now, you'll see that his parse is 27. Now, let me tell you something. This Gunbreaker is 1,000 times better at the game than I am. The reason his parse is 27 is because he died twice during this attempt. Like I said, this was our first clear. There were a lot of mistakes. I believe there were like 6 deaths throughout the entire fight. So things did not go according to plan. All right? That's why he's at 27. But like I said, he's a much better player than I am. But at the end of the day, the reason I bring this up is like, notice how I have 44 and he has 27. So just looking at this, it would be very easy for you to assume, because the parsing here is based on the damage that you are doing. That is what this parse is, because this is a damage done parse. That is the option that I've chosen. This is one of the most important metrics, because everything is about damage in this game. Well, most things are about damage in this game. Assuming everybody knows how to play, everything is about damage in this game. When people don't know how to play, then you have to look at mitigation and healing and all these other things, right? But anyway, so when everything's going according to plan, This is one of the most important things. How much damage are you outputting? So you look at the main tank, you look at me, and I want you to imagine, who do you think dealt more damage? Considering that my parse is much higher, my parse is at 44, his parse is at 27, who do you think dealt the most damage? I mean, obviously, I think that the conclusion, most people would say, most people that don't know how this game works and don't know the current level of balancing, because clearly Ben Boo Gaming is cheating because he knows the current balance problems that exist in the game. Most people would say, well, clearly the Paladin did more damage because your parse is higher. That would make sense, right? The problem is, actually, we have about the same damage. I did 6,278. He did 6,220. So how is it that at that level of damage, I'm on the 44th percentile and the Gunbreaker's on the 27th? That means that the Gunbreaker can dish out a fuck ton more damage than a Paladin can. And he died 3 times. This player died 3 times, was still able to do as much damage as me. Okay? Now I want you to think about that. Oops, what the fuck? How appropriate is that? Actually, this is very appropriate. This is incredibly appropriate. This is me looking at them like, what the fuck, bro? How do you die 3 times and still deal as much damage as me? Never mind that. You don't need to look at that. So, can you see where the problem is, right? And now you guys are like, okay, so Gunbreaker does way more damage. Well, what's the downside of Gunbreaker? There is no downside. There is actually no downside. And therein lies the problem. When compared to a Paladin, there is fundamentally no downside to the Gunbreaker. The Gunbreaker just deals more damage. They die easier? No, they don't. Isn't that interesting? Gunbreakers don't die easier because they have a more powerful, one. I don't even know what to call it, like the short cooldown, their short cooldown defensive, because like every tank has like a defensive that's around 20-25 seconds. Some of them work a little bit differently, but all of us have a very short cooldown defensive ability. In my case, that's Sheltron. In the case of the Gunbreaker, it is Heart of Corundum. Heart of Corundum shreds Sheltron disgustingly because it's just a more powerful ability. Because it gives him like a massive heal whenever he goes below a certain threshold of health, which means it heals him when he needs it the most. Right? Ruri Paladin's got the strongest invuln. Anybody who knows anything about rating in Final Fantasy XIV knows that that means absolutely nothing. The reason people say Paladin has the strongest invulnerability is because it is the only invulnerability that is a true invulnerability, which basically means that when I pop my invulnerability, nothing can damage me. When the Gunbreaker pops his invulnerability, he shoots himself in the head and goes down to 1 hit points. But the Gunbreaker's invulnerability has a much lower cooldown. And healing a tank back to full is super easy for any healer in this game. Any healer in this game can heal a tank back to full like that. Maximum 2 GCDs. And that's like, if you don't know how to play the game, you might use 2 GCDs to take a tank to full. Most of the situations, you're probably going to take a tank to full with OGCDs. Okay? Not to mention, he can also save Heart of Corundum and heal himself, and also use Aurora to heal himself after he pops Super Bolid. Right? So, whatever. Paladin's got range magic. The range magic of the Paladins in the Endwalker tier, and I would argue probably during the Shadowbringers tier as well, even though I didn't rate Savage and Shadowbringers, but at least in the Endwalker tier of rating, there isn't really a lot of situations where you as a tank are required to attack from a distance. Like, most of the mechanics allow you damn near 100% uptime on the boss, so the ranged benefit of Paladins doesn't really get to shine that much. So, it's like there are actually no, at least that I can find. Again, like I said, I'm very noobish when it comes to this balance. Feel free to, this is probably going to end up on a video on YouTube, so I'm completely open to people disagreeing with me and telling me why. This is fine. I'm always learning. That's the way that I look at it. But currently, the way that I look at it is like Paladin has massive disadvantage, and on top of having a massive disadvantage, it deals less damage. What is disadvantage? Wings. Wings is, in a way, the most powerful AoE mitigation. But the execution of that mitigation is a pain in the dick. It's like, oh, I got to turn around, got to pop my wings, and particularly I play with a controller. Controllers have snapback. It's a fucking nightmare to pop wings. Paladins have cover. 99% of situations, nobody ever uses cover. So it doesn't really matter. And yeah, I don't really see any kind of like benefits, advantages to being a Paladin. So, the fact that Gunbreaker straight up just deals more damage, on top of dealing more damage, has better defensives. Gunbreaker has one more cooldown that the Paladin doesn't have. Because you guys don't know, Gunbreaker has, what's it called? Is it camouflage? I don't know if it's camouflage or if it's another one. Because I don't remember the names. I'm terrible with names, but I know that they have another cooldown, which is the parry thing. It increases their parry chance by a fuck ton or whatever. So they have an additional cooldown that Paladins don't have as well. Because Paladins have cover that we never use. So yeah, it's like I definitely think there's a problem there. I feel like considering the damage difference between a Gunbreaker and a Paladin, the Paladin should have something to set it apart. And then it's like when you put other tanks into the equation, Dark Knight, at least I believe currently, has the most damage of any tank. It also has great cooldowns. It's got great survivability except for dungeons. Dark Knight kind of sucks a little bit more than the other ones in dungeons, but even then, dungeons don't fucking matter, so it's whatever. And then when you bring in Warrior, the advantage of Warrior is that Warrior has ridiculous amounts of self-healing. Warrior can just like self-heal himself to full, nonstop, all day, every day. And Warrior also has the best invuln because it's the one with the lowest cooldown, which allows it to be used most often. So, yeah. That's the way that goes. And it saddens me a little bit. Like, I'm still playing the Paladin. I still think it is somewhat viable, although I believe that in the first week of Prague, it probably wasn't viable, considering that Xeno had the swap and whatnot. And I don't know. There were a lot of talks about the first week of Prague and all of the problems that arose from that. But, at the end of the day, that's the only point that I'm bringing, which is like, from the things that I can tell, there are definitely balance problems in the game, and that is bad. They're not nearly as bad as the balance problems that we usually tend to have in World of Warcraft, where a tank can be flat out not fucking viable. And when I say not fucking viable, I mean nobody will play the fucking game with you because your class sucks ass. So even though, we're having some balancing issues, it's nowhere close to how bad it's been in World of Warcraft, so.
Okay, and actually, you know what? I'm going to link you guys a Twitter post that Momo made about Machinist. If you guys want to read more on this, you can. He goes in depth on how Machinist is and shit and all that shit. So I'm not really a range player, so I try to stick to what I know. You know what I mean? I try not to talk out of line. You know what I'm saying? Basically, you can see the difference, okay? You can see these differences and stuff. So obviously, Bard and Dancer are going to be a lot lower when like in DPS and actual DPS, because this doesn't include their, their buffs and shit. But when you put in our DPS, it does include their buffs. So like they're quite a bit higher. You know what I mean? This is adding their raid buffs to their damage. You can also change the range. Like, I mean, I had it over 2 weeks, but you can change it to like 1 day or whatever. We'll just keep it at 2 weeks, whatever. But you can do for like all the different jobs too. So you can do like healers. There's the same shit here. Okay, see, this is one thing I don't understand, man, is like one of their balancing philosophies is that they actually take in difficulty into the equation, right? Like that's what they said. It just doesn't make any sense to me why they would even try to do that, because difficulty is subjective. Like someone is going to find something difficult that another person would find easy, okay? I give this example a lot. Some people think Dark Knight's hard. I think Dark Knight's fucking brain dead. You hit 1, 2, 3 blood spillages, hit all your off GCDs. So here's one thing I don't understand.
See, this is exactly what I say, and people say that, no, that's not how you actually play Dark Knight. Like Mr. Tummy Giggles is always telling me, oh, Dark Knight's so fucking big brain. Mr. Tummy Giggles and Hollow always telling me about big brain fucking Dark Knight. And look at how Xeno describes it. Look at how big brain it is. Watch the description.
That another person would find easy, okay? You know, I
Watch.
give this example a lot. Some people think Dark Knight's hard. I think Dark Knight's fucking brain dead. You hit one...
He literally said, fucking brain dead were the words used, Mr. Tummy Giggles. He said, your tanking class is fucking brain dead.
2, 3 blood spiller, just hit all your off GCDs.
1, 2, 3 blood spiller, hit all your off GCDs. Hit all your off, just like press them all. Just like slam your face on the keyboard. This is like on the level of Protection Paladin in World of Warcraft. You just fucking slam your face on the keyboard, hit all the buttons at the same time, and win.
So here's one thing I don't understand. Like, why isn't Astro like the top, man? Isn't Astro the hardest? Isn't Astro not only the hardest but takes the most work? Like, why the fuck is it? Why the fuck is it not up there? Like, yeah, like I don't understand. And then you look at the tanks, right? Now, in my opinion, I think Paladin is by far the hardest. If it's the hardest.
True! Fucking true! Paladin is by far the hardest. Paladin is by far the hardest. Fucking true. Dude. Thank you, Xeno. I knew I liked you. I've always liked you, Xeno. I want you to know this. You, your big bald head, and your sexy beard. I've always liked you, Xeno. I want you to know this, man. And I completely and fundamentally agree. I've played all the tanks. Paladin is the hardest. Thank you.
Why is it down here? What the fuck? You know what I mean?
Look at this. What is this? What is this? What the fuck is this? Yoshi P, what the fuck is going on, my dude? Dude, this is what we call here in our stream, guys, for anyone watching, this is what we call the Rurikhan Effect. Okay? See, the way it goes, the legend says when Rurikhan chooses a class, that class goes to shit in a heartbeat. Like, it's like that, dude. It's like that. Rurikhan chooses play warrior, goes to shit. Like, this actually happened, by the way. This actually happened in World of Warcraft. Like, I was playing warrior during, which one was it? It was either Legions or Warlords. No, wait. It was BFA. I was playing warrior in BFA, and warrior was literally fucking garbage. Like, absolute dog shit compared to any of the other tanks, right? I was like, okay, fuck this game. This game fucking blows. I'm having to play Monk. I don't want to play no fucking Monk. Monk is way too powerful. Fuck off. This fucking sucks. I don't want to play this class. So I quit the game. I literally, like, I told Q, can I play my warrior? He said no. I said, I fucking quit then. And I stopped playing the game. Because warrior was straight up not viable. It was not viable in any form of competitive environment. Like, can you play it? Sure. If everybody else is literally picking you up and carrying you through the raids and through the instance, yes, you can play it. If people are not willing to put in that effort, your class is fucking worthless. Literally fucking worthless. So I quit the game. Like, literally 1 or 2 months later, warrior was the best tank in the fucking game. And I was like, bro, what is this? So now I'm playing Paladin, and what happens? Paladin is the worst damage in the game. Thank you. Fan-fucking-tastic. And now I have Q whispering in my ear. Q, by the way, for those who don't know, he's my raid leader. Now I have Q whispering in my ear like a fucking World of Warcraft old god, whispering in my ear going like, hey, Rurikhan, you should play some Dark Knight, bro. Bro, that tank's got some deeps, bro. You should play some fucking Dark Knight. You should play some Dark Knight, bro. And let me tell you, in no uncertain terms, I hate the Dark Knight class. I hate it. I do not like it one bit. I don't think it's fun. I've been playing it because I want to get the mount. And once I get the mount, I'm never touching it again. Q is the one playing Gunbreaker? No, Q's our white mage. That's why he wants me to play either Dark Knight so that I deal more damage, or Warrior so that he doesn't have to heal me. Those are my Hey, Rurik, why don't you play Dark Knight and deal some more damage, or play Warrior so that I don't have to heal you so that I can do more damage? You know, this is the way it goes. This is the way it goes. Miss Tummy Giggles, I don't need a macro to play Dark Knight. I use the garbage macro because I loathe playing that class because it's boring. So I'd rather just press one button because I'm bored to death, and at least I want to be bored and not have to put in any effort to actually play the bitch. All right? That's why I use a macro. You're the one watching, buddy.
Like, it doesn't, like, that's why they need to not have that criteria. They need to stop trying to balance jobs based on their difficulty, man. Especially with jobs like Summoner, right? Summoner.
No. They should base it on difficulty. And because, like Xeno just said, Xeno, extremely experienced, Savage Raider, Ultimate Raider, all these things. He just said Paladin's the hardest one. Paladin should deal the most damage. Solved. Problem solved. That's the way that I look at it. Seems pretty fucking simple to me. It's pretty cut and dry. Paladin should just buff everything on Paladin by like 100 potency. All of the attacks. Melee attacks, ranged attacks, magical attacks, everything. 100 potency. There you go. Boom, done. Okay, that you can't actually do that. That's a joke. Don't quote that out of context.
Easy, everybody says. Well, we didn't ask for a super easy job. Okay, well, everybody wants more damage. Okay, well, then make the job fucking harder. But anyway, so this is kind of how you can get a better understanding of, you know, RDPS, ADPS, and NDPS. You can sync your character up to the site. You know, there's instructions on how to do it and everything. We'll just look at mine. This is basically for the current raid tier. Now, you can check other raid tiers as well. This is the last.
Bro, what is this bullshit? Look at his fucking parses, bro. What the fuck? What the fuck, bro? What is this? Xeno, stop. Xeno, your dick is too big. I can't see the screen. Please, Xeno. Your dick's too big. I can't see the screen. Stop.
Last raid tier. You can also check past expansions, so like Shadowbringers, and you can check different raid tiers from there. So like this is Promise.
Look at him just flexing.
This is Gate. You know, so there's a lot of stuff here that you can actually check. You can also check Ultimates. So this is Dragon Song's Reprise. This is Ultimate's Legacy. This is like UCOB, Uwu, T, you know, that type of stuff. Now we know what the different type of metrics are. We know how to look up stuff on your character. Okay, so here's one thing that is really, really good. This will help you improve as a player, in my opinion. You know, let's say that there's a specific turn that you're learning, okay? So we'll look at this. So what you can do here, let's look at Paladin, okay? We'll just look at this anonymous guy, okay? All right, so let's say that you're Paladin, okay? And you're trying to improve your own damage. Now, obviously, you can use this to shit on players and stuff, but I want to say that's small dick mentality. That's small dick energy. So
exactly.
If you do that, you have a small dick. You're dickless, because that's not what we do here. We don't bully. We are cute here. We're cute. So don't ever do that. Use this as a learning tool to improve yourself. Why don't you look at yourself first before you look at other people? Before you bully, why don't you look at yourself, realize your own flaws, and try to fix that shit before you worry about other people? All right, anyway. So let's say, oh God, dude, I can't read this. We're picking another player. Okay, I can read this. Okay, so we're picking this guy. All right, let's say that you're trying to improve your rotation. Well, you can look up one of the top people on FFLOGS, okay? So you can go in here, you can see damage done. Let's say you're dying to a specific buster, okay? Well, you can go in here. Let's say the buster happens at like, 3 minutes, okay? Well, you can left click and then just get from the 3-minute timeline, okay? You can see the buffs, when all the buffs went out. But one of the things that I wanted to go over was a rotation. So let's say you want to see this particular person's rotation, okay? So you can go to the timeline tab and you can see every GCD that they did. So obviously, they started with Holy Spirit or whatever, so you can see all this stuff. And then you can filter it to where you can see like all the GCDs like used under fight or flight to make sure that you're getting all of your abilities under, you know what I mean? So you can see the whole timeline of stuff. And I think this is really really interesting to do. You can also do this with like healing and stuff too. Here's one thing that I wanted to go over. If you hover over your RDPS portion here, you can see what is given and what is taken. So this is a good example. Let's use the Dragoon. So Battle Litany gave them 630 DPS. Okay, Left Eye gave them 184. But what was taken was like Technical Finish, Divination, Volnup, which is, you know, Mug, Chain, Searing Light, Arrow, and Spear. Okay, so all that was taken because that was from someone else. So like if you look at the tanks don't have any ability to give. They just take. Tanks are greedy. They just take. Because of that, their DPS is always going to be higher than their RDPS because the RDPS is going to subtract all that shit. Yeah, so you can think of it like tanks are like selfish DPS. Like Samurai doesn't have a raid buff. Black Mage doesn't have a raid buff. You know, Machinist doesn't have a raid buff. You know what I mean? So you can like go in and you can see like exactly how much stuff is actually taken away. So like you go to the Astro. Basically, if you look here, like 4-7, right? That's just their glare damage. Okay, well, more or less their glare damage. Okay, obviously Astro has a lot of raid buffs. You know that. You know, cards, divination. You know, all that shit. Okay, so their RDPS in that case is going to be a lot higher than their normal, actual, or adjusted DPS. So basically, like Div gave them like almost 1,000. You know, the Arrow gave them 160. Bull gave them 91. You know what I mean? Like Tech removed 60. This kind of stuff is important when it comes to trying to understand like a job's balance and stuff. Okay, the healing tab is important because, like I said, if you go to like timelines and shit, you can see what abilities were used. So like if there's a part in the fight where you feel like you're healing like way too much, or you're feeling like something is hitting way harder than it needs to be, then, you know, you can go into the healing tab to see what other people are doing. You know, you can also go into the buff tab. So let's say your tanks are like just eating shit and you can see what the fuck they're using. Like, let's see, like, okay, like this guy used Rampart. Okay, so he's Rampart here, and here. People are dying to raid damage. Okay, well, when is Missionary being used? So as you can see here, this is the whole fight. So 4 usages. You can even tell when in the fight. This just isn't about damage. There's a lot more information that you can extract from this site. It's just, you know, people with small dick mentality. This is what the average raider does. They fucking go in here and they're like, hell yeah, brother, I got a blue. And then that's it. That's the end of it. Like, okay, all right.
So what's wrong with that? What do you mean? I mean, what's the big deal? Like, what do you mean I can't go on the FFLOGS and be like, hell yeah, brother, I got a blue? Like, well, I mean, let me actually look it up. I'm actually curious because I think I had a purple last week on P5S. I was pretty fucking happy about it. Like, well, what do you mean? Okay, so my dick's not. Look at that. I mean, of course I'm fucking. Look at that. It was 84 not that long ago. Now it's 79. Huh? Look at that shit. Yeah, I looked at it and I was like, hell yeah, brother, I got a purple. Fuck yeah. You got that right, I did. You got that fucking right, I did. I was like, hell yeah, brother. Yeah, I felt called out by that.
That tells you like not very much information, man. Because
it tells me I did a lot of damage. What do you mean? It's like the flex tape guy. Slap, that's a lot of damage.
the comments, and again, you know, I got a lot of comments saying like, man, you should talk about this a little more, you know, stuff like that. I wanted to just kind of give a basic understanding. Like, there's a lot more you can do with this than what we just talked about. This raid tier was hard and the DPS check was tough. You know, some of the healing is tough. So you might have like tanks dying out of nowhere because of the bleed, or you might be lacking on damage or whatever. And if that's the case, you can use this as a tool to see what other people are doing, and you could get help that way to improve, you know, not only yourself, but your group as well. You could be like, okay, well, this group did this. So you can use it to self-improve, you know what I mean? And this isn't just for like savage raids. I mean, even if you're like starting out, you can check EXs and shit. You want to work your way up to it. And obviously all this information, it might seem overwhelming. That's why having like a basic understanding, I think it will really help you in the future just be a better player, because you'll start to understand things more. You'll start to understand why certain abilities are used at certain times, stuff like that. But that's it. End of the video. End of the video.
Oh man, Xeno's awesome. Guys, make sure to check out the video. And as per usual, remember, give it some watch time. Don't just go in there, hit the like and leave. Like, actually watch it, leave it playing in the background, or, you know, go there later, watch the video. So that gives them some watch time as well. Yeah. We're here looking at rainbows. Bro, I love rainbows. Rainbows are pretty. Do you think rainbows are pretty? Rainbows are amazing.